Hello, and welcome to our last of our series of Get Ready for Uni live sessions. We've had a jam-packed 2 weeks full of interesting and useful sessions for you. We've had IKEA come in and do some interior design advice on how you can kind of deck out your new student pad. We've had alumni come in and talk to you guys about kind of their experiences at university. And to finish it off, we're joined by David Whiteley today to discuss his experience and advice on speaking. They
don't know that name.
Or Sideman, and advice on speaking your truth and dealing with adversity. So, David, Sideman, you're a YouTuber, you're a comedian, you're a presenter, you're a creator. You're now doing webinars. Is there anything you don't do?
What don't I do? What am I? I'm horrible at a lot of sports like football and stuff like that. Yeah, like I often get told that I foul, so I'm not the greatest. I'm not the greatest sports person, but I've been getting better, to be fair.
Oh no! So you played.
But you forgot to add sex symbol to that list. So that's all right. I'll let you off.
Let me just add that one though.
Yeah, you update the CV. That's fine.
Yeah, we'll do. Today's talk is all kind of about speaking your truth and dealing with adversity. And university students probably will kind of go through this whilst at university. So it's kind of like a really important topic that we think kind of needs to be spoken about. But first, if we kind of get an introduction to kind of who you are, just in case people don't know who you are, kind of tell us about the journey you've been on, where you are today, how did you kind of start out your career, and kind of what's happened on the way to kind of working on Amazon's first original podcast in the UK.
So I didn't even think about the fact that it was Amazon's first original podcast in the UK. I'm gonna have to start using that. Using that tagline. But so it started out really with, I'd say it started out at secondary school. Yeah. Going to work experience for the first time. I went to work experience at an optometrist. I can't even remember what an optometrist does, but it's some form of medical place. And I was filling out the same form over and over again all day. And I truly hated it. And I said, I've realized that the stereotypical form of work is not for me. The 9-to-5 regime is not for me. I have to be doing something that is engaging to me and also allows me to have some form of time freedom. Like it really stuck on me. In fact, I'd even go back further than that and say it started just being born in Jamaica. In Jamaica, when I was growing up, I didn't really see a lot of established businesses like franchises. So I didn't see Tesco's or Sainsbury's or Morrison's or anything like that. I saw the guy that I knew growing up or that I know from the neighborhood have his own shop. Different people go to market or have their own business. And I feel like it put an entrepreneurial spirit in me, which is what made when I did the work experience, it's so tedious for me because I just felt like I'm not doing my own thing here. I'm kind of just a cog in somebody else's machine. And so it was always the plan. It was forever the plan to do something that would kind of be my own. And I guess when I went to college, I chose media. And I've always been interested in media. I was rapping at first, which is the inspiration for a lot of my, funny songs that I make. I make a lot of like parody funny songs like based on Love Island and other things like that. So I guess it wasn't a complete waste of time. But I kind of transitioned from music to comedy because I just always been the class clown. I've always been that guy that liked to make people laugh, like to entertain in a room and stuff like that. And so when the first place I ever worked and only place I ever worked in terms of like retail or anything like that is Londis. And whilst I was at Londis, I started pursuing, my dream of doing online content. And I was doing online content at first and it wasn't going anywhere. And that's when I realized, the marketing is as important as the content itself. It doesn't matter how good a video is that you make, how funny you may think it is. If you don't find a way for it to reach the mass audience, then it's not going to translate. It's not going to, gain revenue or anything like that. So then I started to implement, things that I really learned in doing media and doing marketing and business in college. Really implementing those skills. And I've often found that that's one of the key differences between me and a lot of other creators that kind of depend on the content solely to boost engagement and things like that. Whereas with me, I kind of take a business approach to it, and use methods and maneuvers to make the content go further. And I've always applied that to my career. And so I started doing that. And one of my methods was to cross-pollinate, to work with other creators, to have synergy with other creators, gaining their audience and putting them onto mine. And that's how I got on the radar of Charlie Slough. And he then invited me to do radio with him. I didn't even know what I was going to do at first. So he invited me to London, and I didn't know what I was going there for. I thought maybe I'm going there for a fire in the booth, which would have been really weird because I was completely unprepared. I didn't have bars. So yeah. And then they said, okay, so we're going to test out you and Charlie sound on the mic. Then from then I was doing a radio show with him on BBC Radio 1 and 1 Extra. And then since then I've transitioned to doing a lot of other things. It's somebody at the BBC, her name is Lucy, gave me the idea of reviewing this show called Love Island, and I'd never heard of it before. And then I watched one episode. I decided to do a review on it. I saw the engagement and I said, okay, yeah, this is it. And I think the appeal of it was that somebody from like urban culture was speaking on something that was quite mainstream. Yeah. Especially a man as speaking on a reality TV show, whereas stereotypically it's like it's almost that social norm that men don't watch reality TV or kind of thing, or what I mean. So anyway, yeah, I feel like that was what engaged the audience, and so I continued to do that. And then from then I got a deal with Lucas Age Zero to sponsor my next reviews, which caused me to get to be more in the brand deal space. Yeah. But I had always been doing marketing, always. So I always did adverts for local brands when I started off. That's how I made money. That's how I was able to quit Londis in the first place, because that's how I was earning and things of that nature. And once I left the BBC, then Amazon approached me to do this podcast. But the podcast was something I was already doing because I had approached ZZ Mills myself and said, let's do something together. So when Amazon approached us, they saw an already packaged thing and said, yeah, let's do that over here.
Yeah, that's cool. So the Plus 44 podcast that you host with ZZ Mills, do you want to just quickly talk kind of about that podcast quickly and just kind of give a lowdown of what it's about, what you guys cover, and the importance of does kind of speaking your truth kind of relate within that podcast as well? Do you kind of keep that message and that theme behind that podcast?
Yeah, 100%. That podcast, as I said, it comes from me approaching ZZ and saying, let's do a podcast together, and we did something called Cause We Can. And we did that just us two. And then when we stopped doing that, then as I said, Amazon approached us. But I think it is absolutely important for us to speak our truth on that podcast, which is something that we're always fighting for, because authenticity is key, especially in this day and time. You can tell how that is changing in the media as a whole. I've gotten a lot more work because I've been authentic and I've been true and I've spoken my truth. And I've spoken my truth even in situations that are uncomfortable. And with media in general, with everything in general, things are engaging when they're new. Things are engaging when they're authentic. This is actually why the rise of reality TV has come in, because people want to feel like things are more real. You could script the craziest thing happening in a scripted series, right? And people are more interested in it happening in a reality TV show because they're more invested in it, because they're like, whoa, this is real, quote unquote real, right? And I feel like that's what people are looking for more now with their sources of media. So you will see people that they are less interested in the production value of the content as they are the authenticity. So people are much more scrolling through TikTok than they are going to a series that has a full production budget with a red camera and all of that kind of stuff. They'll scroll through TikTok and people being creative because it feels a bit more authentic and it feels a bit more real, rather than something that's polished. So I think that authenticity is permeating every form of business. That's why we're seeing more now businesses that are having accounts on social media that speak from a more personalized space. You'll see Tesco tweet and they won't say we here at Tesco, they'll say I. You understand what I'm saying? Because they are trying to come across as authentic and seem more personalized to their audiences, because they're realizing the power of authenticity in this time.
And then you can also see like even today when brands try and be a bit too authentic, and
backfire.
And it backfires because it's just
100%.
Not great.
Because you are still a brand. you are still a company, and sometimes when people try to attach themselves to culturally relevant things, they don't understand the subtle intricacies of things, and so sometimes that's why they get it wrong.
Yeah, so I think kind of one of the first kind of authentic pieces of content that I personally remember first popping up on social media, I don't know if you know about it, probably, but kind of like the Humans of New York Instagram.
No, I haven't seen that.
If you're not, it's some photographer just goes around and takes pictures of random people and kind of asks them their stories and kind of gets a bit of a lowdown of what they're like and stuff. And it's that really authentic story that's made.
I kind of do that, but not for social media. I'll go Birmingham. I'm a Birmingham city centre rat. I'll go Birmingham city centre and I'll just walk around and I'll just look at people and I'll just imagine what's their life about.
Yeah, perfect. So if we kind of take a step back from when you first started creating content on Instagram and social media, kind of what was kind of your main inspiration, and how did kind of you first, I mean, you said you started kind of marketing your videos and stuff, but kind of how did you kind of first start building your audience, and if you have any tips for any budding content creators themselves?
Yeah, definitely. Marketing was how I did it, and I did it by making myself of value, not just expecting somebody to offer me value. So, for instance, there is a page on Instagram called I'm Just, who I worked with very early, and the plan was very simple. I understood that he had an audience, and I was paying at first to have my content be posted on his page, but I couldn't afford to keep that up at first because I was on my Londis budget. Yeah. So what I did instead was, I made a deal with him. I said, if I put your name on all of my videos, that means wherever they go on the interwebs, you're being promoted. If you just post 3 of my videos a week, at the time, I'm Just Bait had about 300,000 followers, but I had none, right? And immediately that allowed me to increase my following. So I think what I thought about was not just, I need to create the best content possible. I also need to find platforms larger than me. Marketing is simple. Marketing can be broken down to simply finding a platform bigger than your own to promote. It's literally as simple as that. All forms, whether it's influencer marketing, that's what that is. Whether you're marketing by putting something on a billboard, that's what that is. You are using the billboard's audience. You are finding an audience that you don't have and marketing your product to a new audience. And so I've just applied that method to everything. And just that stratagem to everything. And that's what I continue to do even to this day. Right now, I'm at the point where because I have like literally, how could I put it? Because I have a platform already that's followed by so many other platforms, I can just post something now and assume that one of them will pick it up. But at first, I didn't just wait and assume. I kind of made sure that happened, whether it was by paying for it or whether it was by making a deal with them. So that's what I've been doing from the get-go. And I didn't just approach the largest platform straight away, because sometimes they can say no. Sometimes we do that, and then when we get knocked back, we act as if, that's all that could have been done. But sometimes you got to approach somebody that's only a little bigger than you are, because they're going to be much more likely to help you, because they're closer to remembering what that felt like when they just started. Yeah. And they'll more appreciate being hollered and being seen in that way. So it's also like human economics and understanding people and the psychology of human beings. Like, it's even like, for instance, in my industry, people will always go after the big star that walks into the room. But my logic is kind of, wait, before you go after the big star that walks into the room, why not think about going after the person, right? That's the manager of the big star that has to walk around watching this big star be loved and adored by people all the time whilst getting no recognition for the work they do behind the scenes. They're actually the person that can make it happen. The big star's so big starry, they can't even be bothered to think about what you're telling them right now. But that manager, that secretary, that assistant will appreciate it more. So I've just used things like that to get ahead.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. And we've seen the rise of kind of like influencer culture kind of popping up in the modern day. You yourself have over 300,000 followers on Instagram, and that's just Instagram. Kind of going back through the sense of like speaking your truth. Do you think that influencer culture is kind of a positive thing, or can you see it kind of being negative sometimes with the fact that sometimes, money can get in the way with kind of your truth. And so, for example, kind of, I'll give you 50 grand if you say this is great, when in reality it's not. You could say that's kind of, you're kind of turning back on the whole like truthful side of things. So kind of, what's your opinion on kind of influencer culture and the real truth, especially if you have a large following?
Yeah, well, the audience has become very savvy right now, so that's why that's unwise. When the audience, I've seen many influencers get caught up in, like, I don't want to call it scandals, but like people have found it very clear that they're promoting something they don't believe in, promoting something that they don't buy into, and something that they don't believe. That there's a lot of things that I don't promote because simply, for instance, I've never promoted alcohol because I don't drink, so it would feel inauthentic to me to do so. And so I feel like in this day and age, you as an influencer might chase a quick bag, but then lose that respect from your audience. And then once your audience sees you as inauthentic, sometimes it can be very difficult to build that trust back. So I feel like it is important for influencers to, pick and choose when they choose to, endorse something, because if it's, as I said, if it's inauthentic, it can turn around to hurt you in the long run. But it does happen. It does happen, and it happens often.
Yeah, and you love Lucozade, so you were like, go for it. Bottle a day.
The funniest thing is that when I found it funny because when I used to work in London, I used to have a Lucozade every day, literally every day. Not Lucozade Zero though, to be honest, it was always Lucozade Orange.
Lucozade Orange,
but it's Lucozade enough.
Yeah, they're perfect.
That managed to screen through my moral. You know what I mean?
Yeah, perfect. Kind of talking about kind of getting your job with BBC One Extra, amazing achievement. And you talk about kind of Charlie kind of giving you that opportunity and stuff. And it was an important step in your career. Did you kind of have any setbacks when you were kind of starting out early in that? And kind of how did you deal with those? Or was it kind of all high flying, I'm on BBC One Extra, this is great?
Well, as I said, the process to get in that was very unorthodox. But I expected everything to be unorthodox because I saw a change in how the industry was going. I realized that the way the industry was going, clout was going to mean more than most things. Like whether what you can make happen in terms of engagement was going to start to mean more to people than actual talent. So you might have somebody in a TV show or whatever just because they're the person that can get the numbers, not necessarily because they're the person that's the most suited for the job. And once I realized that change was happening, I kind of accepted that and said, okay, it's more important for me to focus on getting my engagement. I already know that I'm talented. I need to focus on making sure my engagement is right. So typically how you get into radio is to you do radio in college, you do radio in uni, all of those other things. My path and rise to radio was very, even if you look at a lot of people in radio in the past, they did uni radio, Greg James, and all of those other guys that were at Radio 1 and One Extra. A lot of them did college radio or uni radio, right? But how I found my rise to be was very, very different to theirs. So for me, what I did was I was cross-collaborating with other influencers. So I'll tell you exactly how I got onto BBC One Extra. I was doing my videos and getting Link Up TV to post them, which is a popular page within the scene. Remember, I always tell you I'm about that cross-marketing. So I was doing cross-marketing. So I get them to post me, and then all of a sudden Giggs, who is a very, very popular rapper, he then posts me as well, right? When he posts me, then Charlie Slough sees it because them two are friends. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the thing about getting posted by popular people. Sometimes it's not about the masses seeing you. Sometimes it's about one influential person that they know seeing you also. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes that's what's key. So that's basically what I did. And in doing so, what that allowed me to do was to connect with Charlie Slough. And then he told me, okay, I'm going to give you an opportunity on radio, which then didn't come to fruition for about a year and a half, and
Yeah.
that was a year of me messaging him over and over. And at first the messages were okay, then they got pathetic. At first it was just like, bro, just a reminder, you said you was going to do a video with me, because I asked him to do a video with me, and he said yes. And then I literally maybe 6 months later, it was like, bro, I told all my friends about it. Now I look like a waste man. Like, it got more and more pathetic, because I've never had an ego when it comes to this game. Like, I've always been humble, and a lot of people are more humble than people would think. A lot of people see artists or things like that get stuff done in the limelight, but they don't know how many asking and begging and pleading and stuff that they had to do in the background. And so a year and a half later, Charlie just says, come to London. And then I came, and then that's when I started radio. So as I said, it was a very unorthodox journey. And doing radio with Charlie was great until when Charlie left and I had my own show. That kind of turned things on its head, because then what was happening there is that I was expected to do a show by myself. And I've always had the gift of the gab, but having the gift of the gab whilst controlling the board that controls the music and everything else, that was the difficult part. So so I had to learn how to have a personality, not come across like a robot, come across authentic whilst controlling this machine all at the same time. And that's where the difficulty was found for me personally. There was a struggle there initially, but I got past that, and now I'm here.
Yeah, cool. So in terms of working for the BBC, huge company, how much freedom were you given on your radio show? Were you able to kind of talk about what you wanted to talk about, or did it kind of go through like 5 sign-off processes before you could actually speak on air?
There's definitely a lot of sign-off processes. Do not get that twisted for even a second. And that just comes with the game. And I think a very, very important part of this game is knowing how to still come across authentic, right, whilst also adhering to industry standards and protocol. You understand what I'm saying? Because and that's why a lot of collaborators struggle, right, to work with brands or work with anybody at all, because once their vision is diluted in any way, they kind of lose interest in the entire thing. But I actually think that is not the smart way to be about things. You're not going to always have it completely 100% your way. That doesn't mean that the outcome can't still be wonderful. You get what I'm saying? Even though I did have regulations and stipulations on radio, that didn't mean that I didn't all have a good time and I wasn't authentically myself. I was just as authentic about things as I could be. I never lied. I just avoided those things that I couldn't talk about. So that's what I would say.
So it still kept kind of who you were.
Yeah, definitely.
Important. So when you resigned from One Extra, I think you were quoted saying that you had to think very long and hard about the decision. And kind of the whole reason for you resigning was because you wanted to kind of, as this whole session is about, keep your truth and kind of, I mean, it's kind of like you've been given everything. Well, I say given everything. You've worked your way up to this great achievement. And then you're kind of, must have been such a hard decision for you to kind of step down from that. So kind of what was going through your mind, and kind of how can you make a big decision like that?
It was a very, very difficult decision, but what I'll say is this: when it comes to doing anything, right? I tell people all the time when they go into the creative industry, sometimes they lose that 9-to-5 regiment and mindset. When I started off at Landis, I started off with not much leverage. I started off with not much authority, but that changed over time. This is how you have to look at everything, right? So you will not have all the leverage in the world at first, right? You will not have all the power in the world at first. I built up enough leverage to be able to leave. It was a tough decision to make, but that doesn't mean that it was as tough as it would have been to make a year or two prior. And so what I always tell people is do what you can until you can do what you want to. You understand what I'm saying? So it's just like I'm not going to recommend for everybody to quit their job no matter what happens, if any slight thing bothers you. You understand what I'm saying? But what I will say is this, is that always work your way up in life to be able to make sure that when that time comes, that somebody does, hit your bottom line, you're going to be able to stand on your ground, and you know what I mean, and live authentically according to your truth. That's what I would say.
So yeah, when you were kind of
it was a very tough decision.
Yeah, I can imagine. When you were going through the process, like, were you asking like friends and kind of other people for advice during the time, or was it kind of something that you were dealing with solo?
Was I asking friends for advice? Not. I spoke to my manager and I spoke to Charlie.
Yeah.
Those are pretty much the only two people that I spoke to. I had a word with them about it, and it was good conversation. And yeah, I feel like we reached good places based on that. But yeah, that was pretty much it, really. But once I feel sure about something, once I feel sure in myself about something, like, then it's pretty much going to happen that way. That's how I tend
sometimes
to.
Sometimes it's best to kind of act on your heart instead of kind of all the things going on in the brain. Sometimes. Cool. So kind of after you resigned from One Extra, kind of what was like, did you kind of have things already planned up for kind of things you'd be doing afterwards, or kind of was it kind of a resignation and then kind of a little bit of a break whilst you kind of figured out what your next steps were?
Well, I mean, to be completely frank, the way my career works is that the main thing that I make money from is brand deals.
Yeah.
So those were always going on. That was always happening. So I was all right in that sense. I wasn't worried so much about money. I was always getting work and stuff like that. Like BBC wasn't the thing that paid me the most, in a sense, is what I'm saying. So things are always all right in that sense. So I just continued to do that, and I knew that some form of long-term thing would come along, but I never had anything in place. What I would say. Yeah,
and after kind of that big decision you did make, like, how were you during that time in terms of kind of like your headspace? Like, were you kind of like positive? Were you kind of like feeling a bit down about it? Because like when anyone makes a big decision like that, like, it does probably have an effect on you as a person. So I kind of want to get kind of your tips and tricks and advice on kind of if like a student, for say, was to kind of speak their truth or kind of did put themselves in a peculiar position, like what ways can you kind of like mentally prepare yourself after it happens, basically?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I would say I was all right, but that's because I've just decided a couple of things when it comes to life. I've decided that my peace is more important than anything else. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I find oftentimes what we do as humans is that we allow ourselves to be uncomfortable so that other people can be comfortable. But like, that's backwards to me. It's like, why should I be the only one experiencing discomfort? I always say to people, this is my mantra. If it's awkward for me, it's going to have to be awkward for everybody. We're going to all have to share this awkwardness together. I'm not going to just be feeling awkward alone. And that's just my motto. That's just how I live. That's how I operate. I see it as this. If I am uncomfortable with a situation and I feel justified and sure, that's why I'm sure. And I think sureness is something that is very lacking in today's society. Oftentimes when we do things, we do it on top of doubt, we do it on top of fear, we do it on top of insecurities, we do it on top of worrying about other people's perceptions. I practice to be sure so that when I do something, other people's reaction aren't going to make me double back and then rethink why I did what I did. And that's why I try to be sure. Being sure can come from a range of different things. It comes from an understanding of yourself. It comes from an understanding of society. So sometimes when you make certain decisions, you can pretty much guess and surmise how some people are going to react. Sometimes when you make certain decisions in life, some people are going to try to make you feel bad about it. Some people are going to try to make you feel guilty. You've got to ask yourself, why are they doing that? Are they doing that because they're right? Or are they doing that because of a personality defect that they have? Are they doing that because they want to manipulate me to continue to stay in the same position that I'm in? Like, once you start to roll through all of those things, maybe even writing that down will be good for some people, to just list all of the different outcomes that you think and can perceive are going to happen. Because I've heard so many people say, I would do this, but I know they're going to get mad. But let's think about why they're going to get mad. Are they justified in their anger? If they're not, then you've got to think to yourself, well, this person is technically emotionally blackmailing me right now because there's things I will say, but I can't because they'll get mad. And so that's how I think in life, so that by the time you hear me say, I'm not doing this anymore, or I'm not okay with this, I've already reached sureness. And I think we should aim to be sure before we make decisions, so that not so much because of the repercussions of the decision, but just so we're at peace with ourselves afterwards. Makes no sense me make a decision and then I'm tumbling and can't sleep in the night because of it. Yeah,
that's really insightful and really interesting. I think you should add motivational speaking to your plethora of skills as well, man.
I do that every now and again also.
Yeah, cool. So kind of, in one of your latest podcasts, you kind of reference being like criticized on social media and stuff. Something that, like, with 300,000 Instagram followers, I'm sure that you can't kind of impress or please anybody, and also you're probably going to attract kind of not nice people. Like we've seen it recently, kind of with the Euros as well, kind of the despicable behaviour that was kind of involved with some of the players there, and that was just because someone missed a penalty. How do you go about kind of dealing with the trolls, dealing with the negativity, like people who are challenging your opinions and kind of sometimes kind of just going out of their way to make you feel uncomfortable? Do you read the messages? Do you ignore them? Do you kind of react to them?
For me, yeah, I read messages. Sometimes I reply, but I reply because I'm okay. Like, I don't recommend replying if it's going to upset your day. And I also caution people to understand the nature of social media, because sometimes it's not about what a person said, but why they said it. Understand right now. Like, I'm going to break this down. It's going to sound technical, but I'm going to break it down. Okay. Here's my thing. Social media in the age that we live in right now, right? We live in a time of anti-establishment mindset. What I mean by anti-establishment mindset is that we feel like establishments have failed us in many, many different ways. Whether it's government, whether it's institutions, we feel failed in many regards. Because we feel failed in so many regards, it causes us to have a mindset of being weary of establishments. But we've gone so far with it that we're weary now of the idea of establishment. So anytime we see somebody building something, we are offended by structure rather than what the structure is, because we just feel like structures are innately corrupt. Once we see somebody doing something, we're like, we are literally prone in this day and age to second guess and question why people do everything, because it's a fear tactic, it's a protection tactic. It helps us to feel secure. And so the champions of society now are the call outers. Who can call this out? Who can call that out? Who can show us the realness of this? Who can show us where the fake is? And so all people, it's a prove the fake Olympics on social media. So people will find any and everything to say about you, just so that they can hurt you, just so that they can bother you, just so that they can upset you, just so that they can break you down, just so that they can get likes and clicks and validate themselves and others that think like them. So when you know that's the reason behind why somebody is doing something, you have to take that with not even a pinch, but a massive, massive dollop of salt. I'm not going to ingest this information as if it's coming from an authentic place of whether care or advice. I have to understand that this person is coming from a place of, oh, they've said this because they want likes. They've said this because they want entertainment. They love the circus. They love seeing things be torn down. People love seeing things torn down. They build up things to tear them down. We see that all the time because people love the drama. So when you understand that, it's like, I'm not going to let this really affect my day. You know what I mean? And sometimes you have to disconnect from that and get back to real life and remember. Like I always look at social media, and anytime bare people are hating on something I do, I was like, my mom still loves me, bro. So you know what I mean? Like,
I'm all good.
I can just I'll just go home. Like I'm at my parents right now, but I'll just go to my parents' house. Sit down, feel some love, and live life.
No, yeah, that's good words of wisdom. And like, yeah, you were speaking there, kind of people doing things for clicks and likes and stuff. And I think we've seen an increase in that over the past 10 years about people kind of possibly trying to pretend to be authentic, to try and care about certain social issues, when in reality it is just kind of for that social clout. And yeah, like, do you see this, like, if we look forward to the next 10 years, like, are we heading towards something which is kind of is going to be like where you say like we're getting to the point where we can't trust, like at first? Are we going to get to the point then where we're second guessing everything?
I would never get to that point, because I realize that, you see, there's a difference between breakers, people that love to tear things down, and builders. Builders understand that you can't build nothing without hope.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever built anything in life without hope. You have to first believe in what you're doing for you to be even interested in building it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if nobody's ever started something they didn't believe in at all. Hope is the nucleus to everything that's ever been built. So because I understand that, I know that having a hopeless mindset like where I don't trust anything, I don't believe anything, there's doubt everywhere. I just don't. That will cripple you.
Yeah.
That would literally disable you from doing anything. Because and I see that with a lot of people. I see with a lot of people that feel like everything's so against them and everything's so wrong and everything's so twisted that they literally just do nothing or not much because they've lost faith. But I have to hold on to my faith because I know that before I ever put any brick on top of another brick to say I'm building something, I need faith first, or I'll never even pick up the first brick. So I value my hope more than I even value anything I've got built up around me. Because if I lose everything I build up around me, it's hope that's going to make me be able to build it again.
Yeah, perfect.
This is getting deep and preachy, but yeah. It is,
yeah. I think we need to take a break. But no, let's take a break a bit. We got let's talk about Love Island. Let's put a spanner in the works. So we do have like 2 BCU alumni, Liberty and Kaz, in Love Island. I know that you're renowned for reacting to Love Island. Yeah,
those are 2 people I like on the show.
Yeah, nice. Do you have a favorite for who's going to win? Like which couple?
Favorite for who's going to win? I think it's going to be Jake and Liberty purely because there's nobody else. The other couples are shambles. That this year's Love Island is just catastrophe after catastrophe. Like tonight, if anybody listening does watch it, tonight's episode is due to be just that. The relationships not working out, people being heartbroken, things of that nature. So it comes with the territory.
Oh yeah, and kind of do you think Love Island is a good reality TV platform for kind of young people to be watching?
Yes, personally, if you're watching it with the right eyes.
Yeah.
So for me, I think Love Island is a beautiful case study into men and women dynamics. Yeah. I think it's a beautiful case study in what to do and what not to do, what other people are thinking, what the other sex or your partner is likely to be thinking when you're not there. You're getting to see that. You're getting to watch that play out, and it's not that dissimilar from real life. Like, for instance, right now, the boys have gone to Casa Amor, and the girls. So basically, that's another villa where they've built relationships with the girls in the main villa. Now they've gone over to Casa Amor, and now they're talking to other girls, right?
Ooh.
And seeing how they're behaving without their main girls there. Girls should watch that and understand. Sometimes when lads go on a lads holiday, or sometimes when lads and your guy is away from you. Yeah. That's a completely different human being. That's a completely different human being you're dealing with there. Like, that's an alien now. You are not
different planet.
You are not dealing with the same person you were dealing with before. And so yeah, I think that's I think it can be good in that way for you to just understand the playing field in which you inhabit when it comes to the dating scene.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so this webinar is for kind of students who are going to be starting university in September. Yeah. And a lot of students may have kind of been around their own social circles, kind of their own kind of just like one set of friends at school and college. And they're all from a similar place. But you've got some students who are going to kind of be coming to move to Birmingham, because originally I'm from down south, down Winchester way. And I remember coming to Birmingham and it being an explosion of culture, of different like ethnicities, of like I think there was one week that I had like a different like cuisine from a different country every single day. Like it was crazy. It was crazy. I was like, what? This is mental.
Very different.
It's like a culture shock. Kind of. And like when students come to Birmingham, they're going to kind of be meeting people from all over the country, all over the world, because we've got international students to come from India, Pakistan, like Nigeria. Like we've got so many students here. What's your advice for students approaching kind of this situation?
So
like how do you
wonderful opportunity to learn.
Yeah,
it's a wonderful opportunity to learn. That's what one thing I say is a wonderful opportunity to learn, and then a wonderful opportunity to have fun, because then you'll experience somebody else's culture, somebody else's cuisine, somebody else's tendencies. And what I've found, this is just something that I tell myself when it comes to interacting with new people: be very, very open to having having something you might have to apologize for that you didn't understand.
Yeah.
Be open to it. Don't be defensive, because it's very, very human for us to get in our defensive bag and immediately go into being defensive because somebody is offended by something that you've done that you didn't intend to be offensive. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's what I would say. And I try to practice that as often as I can to and also as authentically as I can to not take offense to somebody being offended at something I do if it's something that I didn't understand, because sometimes using the I didn't understand excuse just causes more offense to the person. You didn't understand, but that doesn't mean that you can't apologize. That doesn't mean that you can't, you understand what I'm saying? So I try to not be defensive when somebody's teaching me a new way in which I might have offended them that I wasn't aware of prior. It just helps things to go more smoothly.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
awesome. It's really insightful there. So students who kind of are coming to university, as the ever-growing things are changing within the world, and there's lots of different social, economic, and like life issues that kind of pop up from time to time. Like most recently, like we've seen, like with the Black Lives Matter movement, that I know that there were protests and stuff within Birmingham, and they're going to put our hands up and say, I think we were probably one of the biggest protests in the UK when that was kind of going down and stuff. I think one of the most peaceful ones as well, if I remember rightly. But kind of, what's your advice for students who kind of feel passionate about making a difference in the world? These can range from like environmental, societal, political. How do you kind of suggest students kind of approach these problems in a productive and positive way?
What would I say? I guess I would say that when it comes to, broaching those bridges, it's just to understand that whilst you are protesting, whilst you are fighting for something, you're also learning, and to also fight effectively. Also know what you want to achieve, because sometimes in protesting, we can just be releasing our rage, but to know that there's no point, if you get what I'm saying, like there's no specific exact purpose to why it's happening. And I think it's very, very effective for us to do that, to think, well, how am I maneuvering here? You understand what I'm saying? Like, what's the purpose of what I'm doing, and what do I hope to gain and achieve? So I think, that all of that is key. All of that is key.
Perfect.
But still, it's a great thing to do. It's a great thing to want to change the world that you're in, and that's not a fire that you should ever kill within yourself.
No, exactly. I think with social media now, and with kind of the internet and like all of these connections we're making as humans now, it's much easier for us to kind of pop a message out and say we're all meeting here, bring your picards down and stuff. But yeah, kind of just try and make sure that it's done in a positive and productive way over kind of something that kind of counterbalances the message that kind of then like you've got kind of like media
defeats the purpose.
Defeats the purpose. You've got kind of the media who then kind of turn on it and then start portraying it in a negative way. And then we've got kind of going down that rabbit hole. If we go into kind of like back to the students, a survey conducted by Voxburner, 2021 Youth Trends Report, found that 85% of 16 to 24-year-olds say being themselves is really important than actually fitting in. But at the same time, we recently did a survey where it said that 61% of the people who did the survey said that they were most worried about kind of making friends when they started university. So you're quite an authentic guy. You're a real chill guy. You know yourself. You're very sure. Like how can people balance being themselves and also making friends at the same time without worrying, trying to be someone else or be someone else?
I don't even think that's something that you should balance. Be yourself first and foremost, because any friend that you gain by not being yourself, that friendship will eventually crumble. So it doesn't make sense to make a friend without being yourself. I would say be your authentic self and find people that will gravitate towards that and don't get upset when they don't. Because at the end of the day, you're saving yourself heartache later. Because if you be a caricature or a diluted or semi-skimmed version of yourself, and then you manage to get somebody as a friend, then you gain feelings for that person. But then as you begin to let your real personality out, there becomes friction in the relationship, and then you two aren't friends anymore. That's going to be way more heartache after your feelings have developed than it was before. So that's what I would say. I would say be yourself authentically, and some people will roll with that, and some people won't. And the people that do, especially after you saw others don't, you will really love them for it. You'll really love them for it. But also, don't have whack personality traits and claim them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you have a certain personality traits that just aren't friendly or aren't good, because, you know, some people will just tell you what star sign they are and then expect you to deal with the negative parts of that persona. No, we as a human should always be working on ourselves. If you feel like you're a person that's short-tempered, you should work on that short-temper. You shouldn't expect me to accept it. So be yourself, but also be constantly working on yourself, because, you know, you gain friends by being friendly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And kind of talking about kind of making friends and stuff. Yeah. Do you have any, like, what are your tips on making friends? Like, if you were kind of, if you've just come to this place, come to university, you know no one, how would you go about approaching people to kind of make friends and stuff?
A smile can help. Smiles are nice. People like those.
Smile.
Yeah, starting off with a smile. People
not too creepy though. Not creepy.
No, not too creepy, but just not. Sometimes you have to be conscious of your countenance, because sometimes you don't know who's looking at you and thinking, why is their face like that kind of vibe. So I think that can help. And also just hello, hi, you all right? My name's whatever. Do you know what I mean, kind of thing. And I understand wholeheartedly that for different people that can be different levels of difficult. Like for somebody that's like a 2 on the difficulty scale, like, oh, okay, just say hello. Whereas for other people that's like a full-blown 10. So I get that. So sometimes, you know, you sign up to certain groups that will fall, because I know with universities you guys have like your different groups and your different, I don't even know what you call them. What do you call them?
Societies.
The things that societies and things like that. Sign up to some so that you meet some people with some mutual interests, and it kind of like the activity kind of forces you to have to, you know, communicate with people and forces those kind of social situations, so that it takes the pressure off you doing it. You know what I mean? That's what I would say.
That's good advice. Yeah, especially for students who are kind of like, traveling and stuff. And like when I first moved to university, I just was doing everything. just get out there. Don't spend your time in your room. Try get out there, join societies.
Man, like I've never been to university, but I've done university tours. Yeah. And even though I feel like I'm too old now, every single time I've done a university tour, I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I should have went uni just for the vibes alone. Yeah. Like just for the vibes. Like I've even considered, should I just go uni? Not even learn nothing. I won't even show up to none of my lectures. I'm just for the vibes. Just for the vibes. Just for the vibes.
So before we take a couple of questions, I think there's a couple of questions that have come through. Kind of want to get your viewpoint on Birmingham, like what it's like as a city. Kind of, you've been here since is it 12 when you first kind of moved to Birmingham?
Yeah, between 10 and 12.
10, 12, yeah. So are there any places that you'd recommend kind of students visit in Birmingham?
Love the city center. I love the city center because I feel like especially if you come from like somewhere like London or something like that, I love the pace with which people walk in Birmingham city center. They're just lazing around, like they ain't really going anywhere. There's so many shops to visit and things like that. Check out the food and everything like that. Obviously go to places like Star City where you've got the bowling and the cinema and everything all in one place, and a lot of restaurants like Nando's and stuff like that. Then you got the Sea Life Center. I'd also advise you visiting the Reservoir as well. And then Brindley Place is great for food, especially if you're looking for something like a bit more highbrow. You want to back out some lobster or something like that. I recommend Bank in Brindley Place is a great place for lobster. Where else would I say? Like I said, the Reservoir. Now I know there's many different reservoirs, but I'm talking about I can't remember where exactly it is, but it's near town. It's near the city center, but there's a reservoir and it's just lovely there. Like it's got the big lake, and you can do rowing classes there as well.
So I think is it Edgbaston Reservoir?
Yeah, Edgbaston. Yeah. Yes. So Edgbaston Reservoir, and also go to like Cannon Hill Park. That's a famous park in Birmingham as well. So you got Cannon Hill Park, and then Sutton. What's the one in Sutton Coldfield?
I think it's just Sutton Park.
Yeah, Sutton Park. That's a massive park as well. And just visit your local cuisine places, because the food's great. I think Birmingham food is great, better than London. But yeah.
And here first, we'll put that on a plaque.
Just in my personal
Cool. So before we head to some questions in the chat, like what's next for you? Because you're currently still doing your podcast. I think an episode came out today. But like, have you got any kind of big plans coming up, or are you kind of taking days as they come?
So when it comes to my career, I am kind of taking days as they come. I have long-term plans, but they're not so necessarily to do with the media industry. I feel like I've found my place in the media industry now. I talk on topics I'm interested in. I do adverts for brands, and that's been going pretty well for me. But I want to kind of like branch out into bricks and mortar. So I'm buying up property at the moment, and I'm looking to open my own restaurant in Birmingham, which I'm working on at the moment. So that I'm focusing on doing stuff because we can be multifaceted as individuals. We don't have to just keep in one lane, and we don't have to do one thing. And property investment is great because it's something you can hand over to future generations. So I think it's beautiful for all those reasons.
And when you do open your restaurant, can we get a BCU student discount?
Yeah. I got you.
Remember this. This is going to be recorded, so
write it down.
Verbal contract now. So I've got a question here. Like, who are your main idols, and like, where do you get your inspiration from?
Where do I get my inspiration from? Okay, so people I mainly get inspiration from is Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart's one. Also. Who else would I say I get inspiration from? Kevin Hart, because of his work ethic. People, not everybody considers him the most funny comedian, but I feel like he's one of the most hardworking, and work ethic will get you where talent won't a lot of the times. So Kevin Hart. Who else would I say is an inspiration as well? Wall of Comedy, which is Jovan, Purcell, and DK, and they're UK. Comedians that started off doing comedy and now they do Netflix shows. Jovan actually plays Cyborg in DC's Teen Titans, and I think that's massive that he came from just environments just like me, and then ended up being on Netflix and things of that. Daniel Kaluuya as well. Is such a successful actor, and he doesn't have social media. I aspire for the day when I don't have to have social media, but unfortunately, very integral to my career.
Yeah, need it. Very important. Yeah. Got another question from Pete Cameron. He says, when you first met Charlie Sloth, how did you develop that relationship? And do you have any advice for people meeting other people who might be able to kind of open doors for them in careers or education?
I'll be absolutely real with you. When I met him, I was like, all right, cool. I don't know if I'm going to like this guy, but I'm willing to pretend to. That was my logic at the time, because I was just starting out. But I ended up really liking him because a lot, and you'll find this with a lot of entertainers, their personality or persona online, which his is quite braggadocious, might not necessarily be how they behave in real life. Yeah. And he gave me a lot of tips for the business. He gave me a lot of tips, a lot of advice that I use to this day. One of my favorite ones is that you don't have to be the biggest person. Sometimes being the person in the middle is the perfect place to be, because when you're at the top, people see if you fall and they care if you fall. When you're in the middle, you can fall off, come back. No, but you understand what I'm saying? The expectations aren't as high, and it's like you always have a place. But sometimes when you're the hot person for now, they'll take you down and you'll never get back up, because they'll continue to compare you to that one bright shining moment that you had. Whereas, and I feel like I'm in the middle when it comes to my career. There's no one moment you can pinpoint and say, oh yeah, that was his moment. I just continue to have my little moments, and I continue to truck along, and I enjoy that. And it's great for you. It's great for you for those moments as well, when you feel like, I'm not big enough. You know what I mean? Great advice, I find.
Yeah, cool. Perfect. If you do have any further questions, pop them in the chat and I can ask Sideman. I've got a question. Like when you record your podcast and stuff, like with Amazon and stuff, like, do they get you in on a studio, or do they kind of like send everything home for you? I know that we've had the pandemic recently, so that was kind of a little bit challenging to kind of get out and about. Like, how did you manage all of that? Because that surely was a little bit stressful. Oh, I can't hear you. I can't hear you, mate. I think some technical issues right at the end. Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Can hear you now, yeah.
Yes, I was saying, I've had to take COVID tests the entire time I did Amazon. So it's always been in studio, but I've always had to take COVID tests.
Yeah. Awesome.
Other than that, with Amazon, yeah, it's always been on set in studio, and with other podcasts now, it's been a situation where other things that I've been doing during the pandemic actually, in terms of a financial standpoint, worked out well for me because I can create my own content. So when I do adverts for brands, they don't like send a film crew or anything. I film it and edit it myself. And that's why I always recommend to people to know as many parts of the industry that you're in, whatever that industry is, as you can, so that if you ever need to do something, you're not slowed down by the fact that other people aren't available. You know what I'm saying? I always recommend that you're able to do something on the fly if necessary to do something on the fly. I feel like it's an important skill to have. And so, yeah.
Awesome.
That's that. So during the pandemic, like, I got a lot of work purely because of that. Purely because I was able to sell film, which was key for brands that couldn't get a film team out on anything like that because, you know, pandemic and all them thing there.
Awesome. I've got another question. What would your advice be for someone who possibly feels uncomfortable about speaking their truth? They're worried about possibly, like, it could be kind of like a fall from grace if they were to kind of speak their truth. It could be like a really big thing for them. Yeah, what would your advice?
That's why I always say be sure and be comfortable with the worst case scenario. So, you know what I mean, just be all right with, if you speak in your truth and you feel like there's a fall from grace, but it was really your truth, you got to deal with that truth. And sometimes you can't heal what you don't reveal. Sometimes your truth is an uncomfortable one, and sometimes it can alienate people from you. But if it is indeed your truth, then it was always your truth, whether you said it or not. And sometimes keeping things inside doesn't help to heal or fix it. All it does is just causes it to perpetuate and continue unresolved and unsolved. So that would be my advice. My advice would be, first of all, to understand, you know, I'm never going to sit here and say there aren't consequences to being authentic, but I feel like those consequences should be understood as necessary evils, in essence, for you to have growth. Because I think personal growth is just the most important thing. Like, so oftentimes we just feel like we chase the wrong thing, in my opinion. Money is not important than me being okay with me.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really wise. I think we should leave it there. Mic drop. Yeah, thank you so much, Sideman, for coming in and talking to us. If you did join the session halfway through, do not worry. We're going to have this on as a replay link, so you'll be able to kind of watch back in your own time and stuff. And you can also look back at all of the other sessions that we've had over the past 2 weeks on our Preparing for University section of our website. So, Sideman, thank you very much for joining us. If you have anything last to say, I don't know if you want to say one last piece of advice.
Yeah, I just want to say, good luck to you guys in uni. Don't just party all the way. Remember that you're there for a purpose, and also understand that as great as uni is, it's not like it doesn't define the entirety of your life. You know what I'm saying? So whether it goes good or goes bad, you can still turn bad into good at any point in life. You can decide at any point in life, well, I'm going to take a U-turn here, shift, and I'm going to make things go differently from how they've been going, if they've been going bad. So yeah, just keep that confidence up. As I said earlier, without hope, you can't build nothing. So one thing, never lose that hope. That's what I'd say.
Perfect. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you, Sideman.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
No, it's been good.
Bye-bye,
Thank you very
everyone.
much. Bye.